myself. Otherwise, I'm not telling you. So,
Yeah.
so you said there were two things that took you down this path. I interrupted you on the first one. What was the second thing?
Yeah, the second one was just personally, I want to understand why am I feeling so bad? Like, and what can I do about it? Like, how can I get out of it? So if anybody is going through a challenging time, and we know a lot of people are, either as a business leader in a family with a loved one, understanding some basic neuroscience will help you understand physically why you're feeling it, what's happening in your brain to make you feel this way. And, emotions, performance, they're all connected. They're all connected. Body and mind, and your performance and your outcomes are completely connected.
So I'm really interested because I know people who suffer from depression, from anxiety, from anger. And this is kind of top level though, but I'd love to go deeper. But so here I am. Let's say it's me. It's not me, by the way, and those things typically, but it can happen to anybody, right? But so if I'm a person that let's say I feel depressed. So you're saying I've got certain chemicals happening in the brain.
Yeah.
How do I stop?
Well, first thing I want to say, I'm not a professional psychologist. So if you think you're kind of feeling lousy, the first thing you do is you get help. There's no shame at all in any mental illness. Yeah. Because the brain is so complicated. If you are off on certain serotonin receptors, things that are so small, it can throw your brain off, okay? Environment, stress. So there's no shame. I tell my clients all the time, 1 out of 6 people have anxiety. It's not a big deal, okay? So we need to destigmatize it. The second you get professional help, and then you learn that, there's things happening with me in how I am processing emotions through these neurochemicals, how I'm managing stress, what part of the brain am I in? So what you do is, in the work that I do, I make referrals to therapists all the time. I'm like, this is out of I can't ski here. This is, but you can work on training, doing some brain training, mental fitness, to at least help strengthen the part of your brain, as you said, where you do have, we call it the sage brain, certain regions of your brain where you have more of these positive emotions. You can do that training, and it does work. I mean, the research on it is great, and it's work you have to do. So what I say, David, is, we learned about physical fitness, didn't we? Going to the gym and working out. I'm sure you look very fit. We eat healthy, we work out, we go to the gym, we lift weights. The brain is absolutely no different. It's a muscle it's an organ actually, but think about it as a muscle. You have to train and rep it and work it if you want to get the results. It's no different.
It's interesting when you talk about the repetition of the training and how that applies to so many different areas of us as individuals. So you brought up the physical, you brought up the brain. If we're on a spiritual journey, if we're doing that regular regimen, it brings us much deeper into understanding the truth of that. If we're even at work, the regimen of having what I call sanctuary time. So you're just like self-check, self-accountability. Am I focusing on what's truly most important? Relationships. If I'm having that regular time with my wife, spouse, for people, with kids, with neighbors, that type of thing. So much of our life seems to be that if we're investing that time, we're being more fulfilled or we're becoming stronger. And what you've uncovered is, it sounds like you have a program that helps us really develop the brain so we can live in this sage area. And people who aren't familiar with that term, sage, if I'm understanding the term, is a word that's used to describe someone who's got some wisdom, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I love the term. I love what you're saying. And yes, sage is really that part of your brain that has wisdom, kindness, joy. It's where your positive emotions, really. It's the part of your brain. In the methodology I use, positive intelligence, we call it the sage brain. It's a complicated network of your brain. We simplify the science, basically. But yeah, it's where all that good stuff lives, the part of your brain. Joy, happiness, creativity, empathy. you've got to access it because the brain has a built-in negativity bias. Okay.
That's interesting. Please talk about that for a moment.
Sure, of course. So, and I'll tell you a story about one of my leaders. I just got off the phone with him today in a moment. So your brain is wired to be negative. It's your primitive wiring. We've had the same brain structure for the last, as sapiens, 200,000 years. Your brain is wired to worry, look for threats, scan for threats, and be negative. That's your natural default state. So you're going to go there. And obviously, the brain is not wired for today's world. We're just not wired for the onset, like the onset of chronic. We're wired for acute stress, right? But we're not wired for constant 24-hour news cycle, this and a pandemic. Your brain is just not designed for it. So by design. So essentially, what you have to do is you don't get rid of the negative wiring. You don't get rid of it. You just want to strengthen. You want to strengthen using those muscles analogy. You want to start to build weights to create more positive neuronal connections. And they get stronger and stronger. So we're quieting the negativity bias. You start to quiet it and you strengthen up. So throughout the day, and I'll tell you, a story of my client. We'll call him, Tim. Tim is really successful, very successful, MVP, heading to an SVP at a large, Fortune company, really smart, gets a lot of results, but still constantly is questioning himself throughout the day, all day long. Is this good? He has a hypervigilant saboteur. He's a stickler. He's a perfectionist. He's a hyperachiever. So that part of the brain, and he, again, as you said, not spending enough time refreshing. He works out. He's like a triathlete, happily married. He's got all that, but he's constantly doubting himself. So we're working on, look, is that serving you? What part of the brain are you in? And so he's, so that constant triggering. So because he's doing mental fitness work, he can see, I'm in this meeting. I'm judging this person. I'm judging myself. I'm constantly criticizing. The noise starts to go down. You do this work in real time. It's not hypothetical work. It's not reading a book. You actually do the work in real time. So Tim's starting to notice, like, wow, I can see my worst critic is myself. It's myself. So that's not going to fuel performance, the highest level performance.
Interesting. I met a guy years ago, and what he called it is the negativity committee in his brain.
That's it. So what do you do with the committee? How do you stop them? How do you quiet them and get the sage and get the more supportive, creative, engaging, kind, empathetic committee in your brain?